Hello and welcome to your third guitar lesson. Today it's 11 mistakes beginners make. Let's dive right in. First one is, I mentioned this in the first video, and if you haven't watched the first video, I recommend that you do. I really do recommend. But this is such an important point that here it is. Thumb position. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see, or most frequent mistakes I see beginners make. Holding the thumb something like this in line with the neck, when you should have it more like this, either over the neck or behind the neck, depending upon what you're playing. Number 2, you might experience finger pain on occasion, and that's unavoidable to a certain extent, but it might also be due to you using too much force. So especially on something like this, an acoustic guitar, too much pressing down, maybe because you're getting this kind of note. You don't need to press overly hard, especially on an electric guitar, but even on an acoustic, one mistake you might be making is pressing too close to the previous fret. So if you're trying to fret the second fret, you don't actually press on top of the second fret, you press slightly before it. But some people make the mistake of pressing way too close to the previous fret, and then you get that, and they compensate by, and that will hurt. So much better. Number 3, waiting around for motivation to strike you, or waiting around for inspiration to strike you, whichever you want to call it. I'm not really feeling inspired to practice. I'm not really feeling motivated to practice. Well, that's the thing. I found when I did my video trying to learn guitar left-handed a couple of years back, that it took about 2 weeks of consistent but short periods of practice, maybe 1.5 weeks, to get that really because the first week was not bad, not good. It wasn't good. But after, I think, 1.5 weeks, I noticed, because the idea was to practice 15 minutes a day, every day, and see how much I could improve during a month. After 1.5 weeks, I noticed I'd done the 15 minutes and I was like, hey, I could practice a bit more. But the idea was to make a video with just 15 minutes, so I didn't. But for me, it was 1.5 weeks. It will vary, but motivation comes through enthusiasm. You notice that you're making progress. That will motivate you more. Of course, there are other factors that motivate you, and some days you won't feel motivated regardless of what you've done. But don't sit around and wait for motivation. Just kind of force yourself to practice. Do that for a couple of weeks. You will notice some progress. That should help your motivation. Number 4 ties together with that last one, and that is, how will you notice that you're making progress if you're not measuring your progress? You want to be getting feedback on your progress. The best way to do that is through either filming or recording yourself, or using a metronome. You can download an app for your phone, or you can buy a physical thing that is a metronome. I actually wouldn't recommend over-reliance on the metronome, because it can kind of stifle your own feel of rhythm. But I do recommend it on occasion. So the mistake is practicing without measuring your progress, because noticing progress will give you more motivation. Also, when you record yourself or something like that, you notice things that you're doing well, great, and maybe some things, maybe I should fix that. Number 5, trying to run before you can walk. Basically, going too fast. It's rarely of any use trying to do this. If you can't do this. Or that being said, if tapping is the thing that you want to learn, who am I to say you shouldn't learn it? But take it slow first. Get your technique right, because otherwise you might learn bad habits. Number 6, and I mentioned this in the first video. Again, if you haven't watched that, watch that here somewhere, or at least in the description. A lot of people during my 15-year teaching career have come into my music class saying, could I use your piano, could I borrow your guitar or something like that, because I want to practice my, let's say, piano homework. And I've said, sure, yeah, and then we've gotten to talking, and they say, yeah, I've my piano lesson today and haven't practiced. Consistent practice would do you a world of good. Just 15 minutes a day, every day. Maybe you take Sunday off or Saturday off, something like that. Having a rest is fine. You don't have to do 15 minutes in one go. Do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there. Then you can start adding to that if you feel like it. But try, and if you can't do more than 5 minutes, then do at least 5 minutes. That will really make your improvements explode on a level that if you just practice 5 hours on a Saturday, you won't get. Consistency is key. Next one is, let's say you're practicing something slightly longer than, not breaking it down. Now, I have an example of this where I was practicing basically a C major scale. You don't need to know what that means, but it was this kind of thing in groups of 5 and so on. And I had trouble with this bit. Still have trouble with that. So instead of starting over from the beginning, I just practiced this. And that's a mistake a lot of people, not just actually beginners, but a lot of people make. They don't break it down into smaller bits. Just practice the thing that you're having trouble with. Whatever it may be. If it's a 3-minute song and you have trouble at 2:30, why start from the beginning? Just do that bit that you have trouble with. I have trouble holding my pick, it seems. So break it down into smaller bits. And before I go on, I would like to say that I am aiming to make this series as good as it possibly can be, so that you get the maximum benefits out of this. That in mind, if you have any questions or comments regarding these videos or playing in general, please leave them in the comments. I'll be making a dedicated video to at least the most common questions. If you want to make sure that I do answer your comment or question, you can leave it on my Patreon. Send it to me there. You can try a free trial version or just the free membership version. I answer everything over there. I get so many comments on YouTube that I can't answer everything. The next one has to do with going too fast, because it's easy to learn something when you go too fast and when you're not really concentrating and focusing. It is learning bad habits. And I have a vague memory of learning something in the quote-unquote wrong way. My guitar teacher saying that's not a good way to do that, and me realizing he was right, and then spending an awful lot of time trying to unlearn that bad habit and learn a good habit instead, a good technique. Now this goes for technique and habits. So you learn a technique the wrong way, although there is no such thing really when it boils down to it as wrong or right. If it feels good and if it sounds good, it is good. But there are some things that really just most often don't work, like the thumb that I mentioned in the beginning. So pay attention to what you're doing. These videos, my videos and other videos where people teach beginner stuff, because everything's really new for you, there is a lot of information. So re-watch them. Watch them, try to learn, watch it again, because you will miss stuff. I'm almost sure that you will. You might be the kind of super genius who just notices everything the first time, but my money is on that you're not, because most of us aren't. So take the time to re-watch these. Or if you're watching something else, there are lots of good beginner courses out there. Re-watch the videos there. Number 9. There's a certain something that I really like about punk music, even though I don't really listen to punk music. There's the idea of, we'll play this and it won't be technically great. Actually, often it will be rubbish. But we'll put it out there and we'll stand behind it. The thing that a lot of people do is they aim for perfection, not realizing that perfection is the enemy of good. You won't ever become perfect. But if you want to be a perfectionist, there is a way how you can keep perfecting what you do. And that is not worrying too much about where you're at the moment, but making sure that you're moving in the right direction. A lot of people will say that what you do sucks if you put it out there on the internet. Screw those people. Don't worry about those people. Worry about you're moving in the right direction. If you put it out there on YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever, there will be people who are just really dickheads, and they will say mean stuff. Even if you're really, I mean, they say that to the best of guitar players. So they will say it to someone who's just starting out. My suggestion is that you don't put it out there until you're starting to feel that it's reasonably good, because it won't be good in the beginning. Don't worry about that. That's completely normal. That's how we learn. When you started walking, you didn't know how to walk before you started walking, if you see what I mean. And even when you got up the first times, it wasn't as sure as it is now, probably. So don't try to be perfect. Try to be better. Number 10. It's another one that I've seen in school as a music teacher. People giving it a go. A right proper go for a minute or two. And then they give up. I can never do it. That's actually another thing. Believing you can't do it, that's a huge mistake. Should have had that on this list. Yeah, but if you believe you can't, you won't be able to. But the mistake that I was going to mention is giving in to frustration, not being determined. I will learn this. I've always had that approach regarding anything that I was interested in, that I was willing to put time into, that if I was given enough time, I would learn it. I still have that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I've become somewhat accomplished on guitar. If I'm good at anything, that's mostly because I have had that thought. I'm really determined when it gets down to it. And I see a lot of people who aren't. If you want a few tips on how to deal with frustrations the way I do it, and I've said this to my students, if you need to go outside and scream all the curse words you know, do that. Make sure you come back. If you need to take a break, make a cup of coffee, drink a cup of coffee, do that, come back. What I do sometimes is I'm practicing something and I'm feeling stuck, like for instance the one that I mentioned just a second ago, this, and so on. If I'm feeling stuck and I just do something like. The point is not to play fast. It can be anything. It can be. Then I go back to. Still not going. I find that somehow often resets everything, and when I try again, I see better results. So don't give in. Keep going. Find what works for you in that regard. And then we have the last one, and now we get to the songs that I'm gonna teach you. The first one is this. That was the right key. I think they have it tuned down, so it's one octave lower. The lesson here is not having fun. It ties back to motivation. I would never have played that. Not in a million years when I was starting out. I might have played this, and this is the one that I'm going to teach you. So the Nirvana thing, which just for a bonus, wouldn't have interested me, is like this. It's actually really nice in its simplicity. So it's open string, first fret, second fret, all on the D string. Then you have open G string, second fret on the D string, open string G string, second fret D string, first fret, open string, second fret on the G string. And then it just repeats. The second one was Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne, which is a bit more tricky, but I did manage to get going with this when I tried to learn left-handed this summer with just 5 minutes a day. I'm not sure if that video will be out, but it's because I haven't had time to edit it and film the certain bits to it. But if it is, I'll leave it linked in the description and pinned in the comments, because I thought it was a really interesting experiment. So yeah, the song is like this. I'll put tab here. It goes on to other stuff, and actually the last repetition would be, but let's not get bogged down into that. It's good exercise this. You need to use your fingers now, and you need to have your thumb in the right position. It will give you a bit of a stretch. I remember it from playing it left-handed. It felt really weird. But it is doable if you like that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of thing. Have fun. Play stuff that you like. A lot of people who I've had as students in middle school have said, I just quit playing piano. And I ask, why? Why did you quit? And they say, well, the teacher had me playing classical piano and I really just wanted to play pop songs. So if you're doing something with a teacher, something that you don't want to do, if you're learning stuff you don't want to learn, consider saying to the teacher, I don't want to learn this, I want to learn this or that. And if the teacher says, no, you need to learn this, and it's seriously making you think if you should quit, then maybe you should quit your teacher instead of the guitar. Because in the end, what is this good for if you don't practice it? If you practice something that you quote unquote don't need, you're still practicing something. If you're not practicing something that you need, well, you're still not getting that thing that you need. So have fun with it. And for me, that would have meant I would not have learned Come As You Are by Nirvana. I would have learned Crazy Train or something like that. So, index finger on the second fret of the low E string, keep it there. Ring finger does the fourth fret on the A string. Pinky fifth fret on the A string. So that's the opening thing. Then you take the second fret on the A string, and again fifth and fourth with pinky and ring finger. That's it. Now, the whole thing of this video is to have fun, really. Basically, the mistakes are, I don't think you should be fearing mistakes. These mistakes that I've mentioned, I've had here because they're very common, and if I can help you avoid them, great. But start out from having fun. Practice consistently, be determined, focus when you practice, and you should be relatively fine. The thing to realize is you will make mistakes along the way. You will sound pretty bad when you start out. That's the way it goes. But you will get better. Again, it's not about how good you are now, it's about you moving in the right direction. If you're unsure about the gear that you have, there are 2 videos here for guitars and amps that I think great practice guitars or beginner guitars and amps. That being said, I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about that, more about practicing. I hope you had some use of this video. I hope you consider supporting the channel. There's Patreon, that's linked in my description, where you get access to my music. intermediate and advanced lessons, and a bunch of exclusives like ad-free versions of these videos. Above all, I hope you had some use of this. Please leave a comment, and I hope you have a nice day. See you in the next one. Now get practicing. Bye.